Yo, what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's Stormy B-Man, and I am back welcoming you to another Stormy B-Man's Boxing Raps. That's right. And we're here to talk about boxing this afternoon, a little bit of boxing talk, and allow me to introduce my guest who's joining me this afternoon to share a little boxing talk with me. And it's my man, Kano Local Sports. What's going on, Kano? How you doing, bro?
Man, what's good, Stormy B, man? What's good, chat, man? And like they said in there, man, back smash, throw an uppercut to that like button, man, while you're in here, man. Wipe your feet, get comfortable in your chair. If you ain't one of them lazy boys, man, go ahead and recline it just to that right adjustment and chill back, bro.
Yeah, man. We two old war horses here want to talk about boxing. All these guys out here, they be, calling us OG and stuff like that. But it's really disrespectful. They think we don't know it, but it is. That's okay. But just wait till they become OGs. It's a blessing to be an OG, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Lots haven't made it to this point. I can attest.
Let me start out by saying, man, the zone has the wrong setup for their fights. I'm gonna start out with that before we even get into the fights. They get this long, drawn out process that in between fights, you got 30 to 40 minutes between fights, and it drags it out into a 5-6 hour show when it should be about three or 3.5 hours long. I think they need to fix that because that's just a bad recipe. And also on top of that, I told you, we spoke about this. I had the fights on, and I can't tell you except for about 2 fights because the other ones were so horribly put that they just suck completely, man. And the zone just ain't it for me, bro. It just ain't it for me as far as fight cards go, man.
Well, this is the thing. They on a learning curve, man. The zone ain't been around that long. They remember when they had damn near a 16-hour card. When you remember that one?
Yes.
Dude, it was like they had 25 fights on a card or something. It was ridiculous, man. Some people said they went to sleep and woke up and the zone card was still on. It was crazy. But they're on a learning curve. And I think like when people write in and say something to talk about, hey man, you guys need to reel this in or something like that. I think that would be very beneficial for the fans to voice their concerns with the extended programming, because it don't, like old folks, we OGs, they always say it don't take all day to do nothing. You know what I mean? So they
you saw what I did between fights. I actually played a fight in between fights.
Yeah.
And the next fight still didn't start yet. So I was like, this is crazy, man. Like, I don't get it, man. Wardley was the one who fought Molina, right?
Yeah, Fabio Wardley. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that real quick, because in his last outing, Wardley fought that guy, Richard, the guy who Dubois had fought.
Yeah, I don't remember their name.
The Nigerian cat. But anyway,
I'm not Mr. Boxing today. He the heavyweight dude.
Yeah. But no, he took that guy out in pretty, spectacular fashion. He looked much better against him than Dubois did. But last night against Molina, who is a much more experienced veteran, by the way, and fought almost everybody, a virtual who's who, both guys who are retired now, as well as guys who are still in the mix. Molina showed that Wardley got some stuff he need to work on, man. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it plainly. When the fight ended, it looked like Molina went down submitting like, you're the kid, you're the guy, the headliner. I know my place. Let me go. This is after hitting Fabio with a series of right hands when Fabio was keeping his hands low, sticking his chin out there and everything, and he got nailed. But I didn't like what I saw in Fabio's performance. He's gonna have to clean that clowning up, man, because real fighters are gonna knock his block off. And I didn't like what I saw from Molina because he could have found a better stretch to go down. Maybe that was the round he was supposed to not get through, but he didn't do it at the proper time at all, because what he got hit with was a couple of shots and then a glancing blow that he went down from, a blow that just actually grazed over the top of the head and everything. It was nothing solid. So he didn't even wait for the shot to land on him to go. And earlier, if you remember, in the second round, I think it was, he kind of did this thing where he turned his back. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So that kind of told me something about him. It's like, you know, Molina ain't here to win tonight for sure, but my goodness, Eddie Hearn must have gave him a little extra under the table. So well, I shouldn't say that. Yes, I should. I should say it.
Say what you want, bro.
You know what I mean? Because it was just that kind of thing, man. It just didn't look real to me. But Fabio, I kind of liken him to a young Tyrell Biggs. Now, Biggs didn't clown like he clowns or whatever, or try to showboat, but their boxing styles are a little bit similar, and both kept their chins up in the air, because Biggs did keep his chin in the air, like I saw Wardley doing, and Biggs got his chin knocked off too. So a few times. So welcome to professional boxing, Mr. Fabio Wardley. There'll be tougher nights than this, baby.
Man, let me tell you, Fabio Wardley, you're fighting Molina, who's slow as molasses, not fast at all with the hands or feet. And you was having such a difficult time touching him, even with a jab. This is supposed to be the up-and-coming star? Nah, bro, get him out of here. This man goes into this fight, can't really land when he wants to land. Molina was landing on him whenever he wanted to. It almost seemed to me like Molina could have actually won this fight. You know, it did seem kind of suspect to me as well, because, man, he was working the body beautifully. He was hitting him upstairs when he wanted to. I'm like, okay, so somebody, a seasoned veteran, his dad, is not going to keep going with that, knowing that he's got this kid in trouble. And Wardley's over here with his hands down and trying to do this little flashy stuff and like he's the king of the world and things like that. It didn't even sit well with me. It's not a recipe to succeed in the future. This is one of them cases where I think Eddie Hearns is protecting the young buck, so to say, because let me tell you, Eddie Hearns is the type of person that is not going to put his fighters in a situation where he believes they're going to lose. He's going to make sure that they face fighters who he has the highest percentage of beating. This is just facts. I mean, people are not going to want to hear it. They're going to think this, they're going to think that, but that is the truth. This is Eddie Hearn's game plan with all of his stables. Everybody in the stable is protected like that. All right. And I know, because I know fighters who used to be over there. They got away from him because of that, because they wanted to fight the best. And told me directly that, hey, they want you to do this, they want you to do that. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to fight this, we wanted to fight that, you know. But that's his whole little game plan, man. But Wardley, very disappointing. I don't care that he got the stoppage, because like Stormy said, the man who hurt the man first was Molina. Hurt Wardley, had him up against the ropes. A veteran like that knows how to finish a fight. I don't care what nobody tells me. He would know how to finish this guy off. So to me, he held back a little bit. Something did seem kind of odd in that. And Wardley, what Wardley hit him with, I don't think was knockout worthy. I don't think it was a type of punches that would knock a welterweight out. Okay, come on. I don't even think it would knock a welterweight out. They weren't solid punches. They were grazing punches that weren't. I'm going to leave it right there, man. Wardley is not the goods.
Well, let's break this down even more, man, because going into the fight, when the first round happened, you could actually see that Wardley was doing all of this posturing and rolling his hands. I hate when fighters get to rolling their hands like this, like they, you know, trying to summon up the rhythm to do something. No, man, you got to have your guard ready and set and be ready to punch out of a position, because when you hold your hands properly in the proper boxing technique and form, if you're doing things the right way, fighters can't tell where your punches are always coming from unless you're the type of guy that telegraphs your punches. And you could kind of see that Mr. Wardley was doing that, which is why Molina could hit him with stuff, because he knew when something was coming and he knew when it wasn't. And you remember in the first round, he was hitting him to the body, pop, pop. He had popped him a couple of times right up under that right elbow where that, that liver shot is. And Wardley kind of like, his eyes got a little bright. He didn't show like, oh, I'm hurt, but he was like, he wasn't expecting that. And I'm looking at my scorecard here. The second round, kind of loco, the second round I gave to Molina. Okay. And he won that round because he was landing the more telling shots. He was more effective. And Wardley spent the entire round just kind of dancing around with his chin up and rolling his hands. Which is why the wind went out of my sails in the fourth when Molina decided to go ahead and check out. But I want to see this young man, because I think he's 13-0 now or something like that.
Yeah,
him to start stepping up that opposition. You know why? Because fighters like Pernell Whitaker, Meldrick Taylor, Evander Holyfield, most of those guys off of that 84 Olympic team, who are now thought of as greats, right? Most of them. They fought for championships before they were even 20 wins in. Yeah. So if you're supposed to be really good, it's time to stop playing around the commode and, get on off of it and start showing people what you really have. But thinking in mind of what you just said about Hearn and how he, looks to keep his stable of fighters active and safe, that may not be the course of action that be taken. But I do believe once Wardley gets in there with someone that can hit back and fight back, we're going to see some definitive qualities, excuse me, about him. Because I didn't like how he responded when he got tagged by that right hand by Molina. He retreated. He went backwards, and he went straight back all the way to the ropes where Molina followed him and was following up. And then out of nowhere, one of those wisps of a punch, grazed by him, and Molina went down. I mean, you name me. Molina take shots from guys like Wilder and everything.
Exactly.
And Fabio ain't no Wilder as far as his punch.
But that's my point. You name me another heavyweight that would have got that man hurt and would have let him off the hook like that. I don't believe it. You're not gonna convince me, man. Now listen, I know that there's fighters, before people get all bent out of shape, I know that there's fighters that play around a little bit, have their hands down and stuff. The ones that do it, that are in an elite level, like I'm gonna just use an example, maybe like the Pernell Whitakers or the Floyd Mayweathers. When they did it, they usually did it in the middle of the fight on down, when they already knew the range of the opponent. They weren't doing this. He was doing this from the first round. He has no way of knowing what range was safe or not. Pernell Whitaker, the Mayweathers, they knew where the safe range was at. So when they did that, it's kind of like a pulling the wool over your eyes, because they know they're in a safe range. This is happening from the 6th round type of thing on up. They know they're in the safe range, so they'll show about a little bit and then come back in range and engage again. It's a big difference. I don't believe anybody could tell me that he knew the range at that early of the fight, at this early in his career. And like Stormy said, he's got his chin up high. Not a good recipe in boxing at all, but especially in the heavyweight division where you got these heavy hitters. The heavy hitters in the heavyweight, all it's going to take is one punch to get this man put to sleep by one of these bigger fighters.
Yeah, he's going to have to clean that up, man. He's going to have to clean that up. There's no way around that, talking about what he was doing. Now, is he someone I want to see again? Yeah, I want to see, because I like to try to catch guys where they're on that learning curve, and you find out whether they are putting in the work to really develop or not, which is one of my complaints about Anthony Joshua. You know, with Anthony Joshua and what he's accomplished in the sport, he is behind where I think he should be, because he basically got to a certain point and stopped as far as growth and development. It seemed like they were more intent on just holding those titles, and they even lost once by, you know, pulling that crap, because that fight with Andy Ruiz Jr., the first fight, of course, that was a fill-in for Big Baby Miller, or a replacement for Big Baby Miller, who I thought was going to do the same thing. I didn't necessarily think he might knock AJ out, but I thought the Big Baby Miller was going to win that fight if he and Joshua fought. But fate would have it, the guy you least expect, as far, and I'm talking about if you're Eddie Hearn, the guy you least expect, oh, a little short, pudgy, fat guy, whatever, we're gonna fight him. That's the way they looked at it.
Yeah.
And turned out they must not have caught Andy Ruiz's victory, which I felt was a victory over Joseph Parker.
He definitely got robbed.
Yeah. And then his fight months earlier against the big Russian dude, Dimitrenko. Remember that guy?
Outdoor stadium. Yeah, in the outdoor stadium.
He beat the crap out of that big guy. And that's what made me say Joshua was in trouble, because I saw how he handled that big man. And I'm like, when you got a guy who knows how to fight big men, you know what I mean? The big man better have his stuff together on that night. What were your thoughts of that going in, as we switch the conversation over to AJ and the lack of his development, which I'm pairing up with Fabio?
All right, but before I get to that, let me go ahead and get this last thought off on Wardley. I wouldn't put no stock, people. I wouldn't put no stock in Wardley at all. We don't even have to go that far up and that high of a level to let you know that he's not gonna make it, man. I can name you Stephen Shaw, I think beats him. Jared Anderson, I believe beats him. Michael Coffey, I believe beats him. You can't even get past them three. You're definitely not going for no title. So we're gonna move that out the way. Huh?
Maybe Mike Hunter too. Maybe
Mike Hunter too. It's, I mean, possibly, man. As far as Andy Ruiz, look, I knew he got robbed in that fight before. I knew it, and I saw the outdoor fight where he had. I actually favored Andy Ruiz going into that first Joshua fight. People thought I was crazy. I'm like, man, look, he's coming off of this fight just recently. You know, he didn't have time to get fat. He didn't get time to get out of shape, you know. So I like it when they got them short turnarounds versus what they're doing nowadays, because it keeps you in shape. It keeps you focused. And when he went into that fight, I gave him a huge chance of beating Joshua, and he did pull off the upset. Now, I know Eddie Hearn didn't expect that. You know, notice how Eddie Hearn was scrambling really hard, making sure, sewing up, make sure he got that rematch so he can get that belt back on his side of the world. You know what I'm saying? And you know, it just so happened that Andy Ruiz, you know, came in way overweight in that second fight, man. Because honestly, had he came in the same shape he was in the first, I believe he would have beat Joshua a second time.
Yeah, absolutely. When one thing about guys who can fight, right? And we're not talking about boxing here. When you talk about guys who can fight, it don't matter who the other guy is across the ring. You know what I mean? It's like big, small, they take them all. It's like when you can fight. And Andy Ruiz can fight, but
he's fast too. People misjudge his speed. He's fast with them hands, bro.
Listen, I'll remind people right here. My favorite fighter, Evander Holyfield, said when he sparred Andy Ruiz in the gym, he said that's what made him realize it's time for me to hang him up. He was like, Ruiz's quick hands and the fact that he couldn't get out of the way of Ruiz's punches. He said, my time has sailed. You know what I'm saying? Because now coming from a fighter like Evander Holyfield, that's a compliment of the highest order, bro. Because what he's saying is this young man with his offensive ability can keep you engaged. He can stay on top of you. So if you don't have the speed, the timing, the boxing ability, you're not going to beat him. And that's why AJ ran into a big problem in the first fight. Now, what was interesting is that the second fight, AJ never engaged with the guy. He hit and ran. That wasn't boxing beautiful. No, he was staying out of harm's way. And answer me this, Kano, when is the last time a guy was able to take a title from a champion by hitting and running like that who wasn't named Sugar Ray Leonard?
I can't recall a one, but man, you can't even put it in the same sentence as Leonard. At least Leonard let his hands go, Mo.
No, but what I'm saying is, it was Leonard's popularity in the sport. It was all of that kind of thing that allowed that controversial situation to happen.
Right.
AJ was fighting a champion, a new champion, who did come in woefully out of shape, but he didn't take the title from the guy.
Right.
He only outlasted. Remember, people were saying things like, well, I was surprised that AJ still had wind in the later rounds and stuff because he usually tires out. The only thing he could have been winded from is his own movement because Ruiz couldn't catch him. He was too fat. He was too out of shape. It was like Ruiz. Let's put it like this. The Ruiz that fought him the first time probably came from that shape, okay, to train for the fight. The Ruiz who met him in the rematch was the untrained guy. And you heard his trainer later say he had a hard time getting him in the gym. He had a hard time getting him to do anything. He was taking all of these invitations to appear and stuff like this and never turning down a meal. Okay. So
definitely not.
And so it ended up, all Joshua had to do was stay on his feet and stay out of harm's way, and he could go to the final bell. But I don't necessarily agree that means he wins the fight because he didn't fight the champion. He didn't fight him. I remember early within the first 3 rounds or something, he started to go in there and do something, and Andy threw a couple of shots at him, and he got the hell out of there quick as hell, and he never went back in there like that again. I was like, man, what kind of mess is this?
Not only that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Guys, and not only that, man, I don't know how people analyze Joshua, but to me, this is just me viewing from the outside, knowing boxing the way I do. Joshua has still fights in amateur style. In my opinion, he fights in amateur style. Look, I can't knock the man because he's got to where he's got to, but you fight the other killers at heavyweight. I really don't see him winning just because of that. He's got an amateur style, and it's not a style that's going to be successful against the elite. If you really look at his resume, he hasn't really fought killers.
Yeah.
If you really study the resume, he's got a couple of names that maybe, I don't want to hear about the Klitschko because Klitschko is way over the hill, So, it's just
2 years off, coming off of a loss.
Yep. So I don't know. That's how. Do you see the same style as I do, and what do you think about it?
Absolutely. One moment, let me acknowledge brother Crawlface out there in that super chat. He says, "My best wishes. Appreciate your donation to the channel, man. Crawlface, and good to see you back in the chat, man. Thank you for your donation." Yes, Loco, I see him as an amateur, a pro-am, which is what Vasily Lomachenko is, which is what Triple G is, and a few others out there. I call that and have called that the pro-am style, where these guys bring amateur tendencies into the professional ranks, and it's never really pointed out until they get in there with a real pro. A real pro shuts all of that down. And the only reason that Klitschko didn't shut it down was because he was faded when he got in there with Joshua. He looked the part, he got in shape as far as his weight and all of that, but he could not pull the trigger on the right hand going back 3 years earlier when he fought Tyson Fury. In
Right.
that whole 12 rounds against Fury, he could not pull the trigger on his right hand. And Ali was famous for saying, I could see the openings, but I couldn't throw the shot. He's like, that's when you know that Father Time done caught up to you, because he said you could see the shot, you could see the opening, but you can't let your hands go. And see, Joshua got away with that against a guy like Klitschko, right? And when he got in there with a guy who could let his hands go, what happened? Andy Ruiz stopped him. He stopped him. Now, how about the fight with Carlos Takam? Early in the fight, Takam was having some issues, but he seemed to get adjusted and start to do better as the later rounds were going. And just when he was doing some good work, the ref stepped in and stopped the doggone fight when he wasn't even hurt or shook up or anything, which really speaks volumes about where they said, uh-oh, time to, cut the, cut the lights out, because it's like the man might get lucky. You understand? So yes, definitely, I see that pro-am style in Anthony Joshua, who's just like Fabio, and he hasn't gotten any better since taking the title off of the hands of Charles Martin. And that's where you really have to look at things. When a fighter progresses, when he's able to be successful in defending, in this instance, defending those titles that he was given, he never showed marked improvement in any area. You never saw any match where you say, wow, Joshua's jab is really improving, it's coming along, or where he's starting to show some kind of moxie with his defense or something like that, or where he's able to get in and get out and give angles and do different things. He's fighting the same way he fought when he beat Prince Charles Martin. And that's not being slander against him. That's not, it's a fact. Look at his fights. They all are the same. There is no marked improvement. He either gets a good shot in there and hurts a guy and gets him out, just like Pulev. Why did Pulev go as long as he did? Because Joshua didn't know how to break him down. The guy has showed as early as the second round he was not up to the task of being in there with Joshua. But it took him all those additional rounds till he finally landed a solid shot on the dude. And then that's when the fight was pretty much over. But it was not a situation where he had shown some development and cultivation of his skills. And it hasn't happened. And the amazing thing was, I think Joshua won the title when he was 25 or something like that. Check the box rec. Check the box rec and see how old he is now.
Let's look and see where he's at. Let me see.
Yeah, look at how old he is now, and tell me from the time he won to this time that I'm telling a lie about what I'm saying about him.
Let me see. He can have his age on here. 31. 31.
So he's about to exit his prime, and he ain't done nothing. We saw marked improvements in guys like Lennox Lewis, especially when he got with Emmanuel Stewart, right? We saw marked improvement. We saw a better jab. We saw him add that uppercut in there. We saw him add the check hook, because remember, Lennox was all big right hand under Pepe Correa, right? All big right hand. Emmanuel had him doing things because he's a tall man at 6'4", 6'5". Emmanuel had him doing things to keep, most of the opponents were smaller and shorter than him. You keep them at the end of your punches, and if they come in within a certain range, there's a shot you can throw to deter them. And then if they come in closer than that, there's a shot that you can really debilitate them with that check hook and that uppercut that would really, be in your favor. He learned some things. He added tools to what was already there in a big right hand, right? He added other things, other dimensions. You haven't seen that from AJ, and you're not going to see it from him now.
No. You got a super chat in there from 88 Sports Talk.
Yeah, salute to 88 Sports Talk out there in the super chat. He says Joshua will lose to Fury if they fight. Yeah, I'm an advocate of that too. I do believe that. And that's simply because Fury is the better boxer between the two of them and has the greater reach. He has the better mobility. He even has, you can't knock the skill set that Tyson Fury brings for such a tall guy in the heavyweight division. But you know, Tyson Fury throws feints, man. He feints.
Yeah.
He feints, and he gives you this little herky jerky upper body movement, which
he'll land that right hand all night.
Yeah, and which is very good because a guy like not Wilder, a guy like Joshua, he'll go for all of that. Because you know what? He hasn't fought those kind of fighters. He hasn't fought those kind of fighters. And most of those kind of fighters are Western fighters. Fury fights with a Western boxing style. He doesn't box with the typical upright European boxing style. He doesn't. That's why Klitschko was having trouble. But Klitschko was too old. He couldn't pull the trigger on his right hand. And once Fury recognized that, oh, man, it's like he danced circles around the man. Joshua's going to look like a big old robot when he's in there against.
I was just getting ready to say that. He looks robotic every time he fights.
Yeah.
He's like a robot. I'm like, man. I'm like, my goodness, man. I'm just in awe that he's even won as many fights as he has. I'm like, man, Jesus, man. You know.
But listen, when you say that, think about. I told you about the Takam fight. They jumped in there and stopped that fight when Takam was starting to come on, and AJ was tired. Then you think about the Joseph Parker fight, where the referee would not allow the guy to get more than one punch off on the inside before he would jump in there and separate. There was no inside fighting in that fight because Joshua can't fight on the inside.
Right.
And then every other fight that he's had outside of the Ruiz fight, Pulev and Povetkin, those guys were sitting ducks for him because they're older fighters with that straight up European style themselves, and he's more athletic than they are, and he was able to catch these guys. That was ridiculous. You could see the writing on the wall. You see how easy last night Dillian White was able to deal with Povetkin once he stuck to code, right? And we could get into that as a next conversation, as a segue in. But
might as well.
My last thing is saying about Joshua is with no improvement, he's marginal. And I had said this a long time ago as well. Last year, I said Joshua is going to mess around and he's going to allow these younger guys to come up and catch up to him and even be better. Now, one of the guys who was thought to be those guys is Danny Dubois. But it turns out that Danny Dubois ran into a freight train called Joe Joyce, right? And Joe Joyce is also one of the guys that I said that Joshua is going to allow to catch up to where he is. I think Joe Joyce is every bit as good as Anthony Joshua right now and could beat him in a fight. That doesn't make him the best heavyweight in the world because Anthony Joshua is not the best heavyweight in the world, but he's very much on par to beat Joshua because guess what? Joe Joyce has shown us he can take it and he can dish it out. Joshua has shown us he can't take it.
Joshua got quit in him, bro.
I just said. He
got quit in him all day.
So, but yeah, we can move right on into that other conversation about the guys from last night, White and Povetkin.
Yeah, man. Listen, man, I predicted it to go just about like it went, honestly, man. I just felt that in the first fight they had, Dillian White was winning easily, clearly. He was winning that fight. The difference is in that first fight was that when he did hurt Povetkin, he tried to rush too much instead of letting the knockout come to him. And then that's what caused him to make mistakes. And that one split second that he made that mistake, Povetkin, caught him with the uppercut, man. He saw the opening, man. It's not a lucky punch.
Right.
He just, you boxing, you see these kind of little things as a fight develops. And he already knew that when White would come in that way, that he was suspect to get that uppercut in there. So, this time around, I think White said, okay, if I hurt him again in this fight, in the second fight, in the rematch, I'm not going to, get out of my character. I'm just going to keep boxing and fighting the way I normally do instead of trying to rush it and let it come to me. As example, you know, in the beginning when he hurt him in the first round, you notice he didn't rush in and try to go for the finish. Now, I think he was a little too tentative. To be honest with you, I think he could have pressed just a little bit more in the first round, but I understood why he didn't. So, you know, he withheld and then he just kept racking it up. And then, you know, at the end, he finally got him and put him out and finished him when he had him really, really wobbly. When he saw his knees buckles, that's when he went in for the kill. Look, man, and I also, man, you know, I got to give him a shout out, man. I mean, I'm not a Dylan White fan, but for him to show respect to Marvin Hagler, you know, on his robe, I got to salute him for that, man, because that was a stand-up thing to do, man. So shout out to Dylan White for that, man, and hell of a win. I actually believe there'll probably be a trilogy, man.
Yeah, and as far as what I noticed about White in this rematch, and I remember you asking me, who you got, Stormy? And I was saying, it's a 50-50 fight, you know. And you was like, oh, that's too easy to say that, man. But my philosophy was White had put Povetkin down a couple of times in that first fight, you know, and Povetkin showed guts and being able to get up and continue to fight, and then ends up winning the fight by a knockout himself. So a lot of times when a fighter is able to overcome in that aspect, it gives them a certain layer of confidence in themselves that just because you're hurt don't mean it's over. You know what I mean? And fighters who've never been in that position don't know that until they arrive in that. And White, he being knocked out like he was, I don't necessarily believe his sentiments after the fight where he said, the first fight where he said, well, I need to get him right back because I know what I did wrong or whatever. No, that was a crushing knockout for him. And it was a good thing that they had this amount of time between fights with the delays and everything and, you know, COVID interfering. Because what happened is it forced upon White time to reflect. You know what I'm saying? And by having that additional time, he gained a motivation factor behind that to get myself right, because he was being very dismissive about the knockout at first. Oh, I got caught, but I know what I did wrong. I want him back in 3 months. You know, that, no, man, because White can be knocked out like that again because he's not that great a boxer and his technique is poor. But given the time that it took for the rematch to finally take place, he had a chance to reflect. He had a chance to, like, it weighed on him, you know, people talking about him, making fun of him and all of that. The motivational factor came in. So when he got on that scale, okay, on Friday, and I saw those abs in his stomach, which I hadn't seen in a very, very long time, since he was probably like 10-0 or something like that, right? But when I saw those abs in his stomach, I knew he had been training because he didn't have fat. He wasn't fleshy. Okay. And that was one thing. The other thing is, now that you know you've been knocked out, that's not a door for you to be scared to open again. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if it's happening, oh, what the hell? I get knocked out. He knocked me out. I'm gonna knock him out. You got a lot of guys who are afraid of that factor. You know what I mean? And it's like they are, and they will fight like that. They will fight with apprehension. Once it's happened, you could throw your hands up. Look, I ain't got an odor protect no more. I don't have to worry about being on the canvas no more. I don't have to worry about being KO'd before. I've been through that. What you gonna do to me now? You see what I'm saying? And so that's what made things a little bit more in his favor. And it doesn't help that Povetkin is 40 plus, you see. So, and having come out of a bout with COVID, we don't know how that really affected Povetkin, because at an advanced athletic age, because 40 is not old, but in sports, in professional sports, you don't know what that does to his stamina. You don't know what it does. You know, you just don't know, because we don't know enough about COVID really,
Yeah.
to know how it'll affect people in the long term. That's why we ought to watch these fighters who have had COVID going forward and kind of gauge their performances. It'll be a good thing to keep track and record of that going forward, because that'll be
Burchell was another one, wasn't he?
What was that?
Burchell was another one.
Yeah, didn't they say Burchell had COVID as well?
Right.
Yeah, so who knows, man? It could be a factor. And Burchell got knocked out in dramatic fashion, and so did Povetkin. I'm not saying that's the reason they got knocked out, but what you could say is something could be lesser in you as an opponent, you know, or a fighter or whatever going forward. We don't have enough data at this time, but at least coming out of this year, going into next year, you'll be able to evaluate everyone who's had COVID, who's going to be fighting in the future, and gauge their performances.
Herring, Jamel Herring, he didn't look good against Okendo. He got the victory, but it was iffy to me. He was another one that came off of COVID.
He had COVID before the Okendo fight?
Yes.
Before it?
Yes.
I didn't know
twice.
Has he had it since the Okendo fight or before? Because when he fought Okendo, that was in 2019.
No, that was last year. Check it out. They postponed the fight twice due to COVID on Jamel Herring.
Wow. Well, it's something to look at. I'm telling you, it's something to look at. Nobody should take that lightly. You should always keep that in your memory bank on these fighters who have gone through that, man.
Porter got COVID right now.
Wow.
And the reason I know is because I watched the Ring City fights, and he usually hosts the Ring City fights, and they was like, hey, look, Sean Porter, if y'all ask him why he's not here, he tested positive for COVID, but he's watching from home. So now we got to look. You know, I don't want to make something big out of it yet. We need to put a timetable on there, man, and kind of like build a graph, like you was saying, to see how each of these fighters who are coming off of COVID are faring in their comeback fights, coming off of COVID. You know, I don't want to make a big deal yet, but we do need to keep a track on it and see what kind of pattern is coming on about this. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. And it's something that, you know, when we do our shows and stuff like that, it's worth talking about. It's, you know, keeping it in the mix, because at the end of the day, there very well may be something that we'll be able to reflect upon and say, hey, you know, and
see, look, I just looked it up to make sure, man. September. No, it was in 2020. Yeah. In the bubble, MGM Grand, Las Vegas.
Okay.
They postponed it twice. What'd I do?
No, that's me. I put that there. I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you about this one coming up. These guys were supposed to fight a while back, right? And coming up, I think it's May 1st or something like that. They're gonna be fighting Chisora and Parker. Man, Parker, I am concerned about Parker. Kano, it's like, this dude, is he really for real in boxing? Does he really want to be a real fighter, or is he just like, you know, taking checks, man? First of all, Chisora just got beat, you know, and twice in a row, you know, I think.
Not badly though.
Yeah, but you know, he looked like crap though when he came out there against Mr. Usyk. I mean, with that caveman style that I call it, where he just ran him out there. All he needed was one of them big old bludgeons in his hand and that Bam Bam outfit that would have suited him just fine with the caveman style that he came out with. But I wasn't impressed with him at all. What are your thoughts about this fight as it's on the horizon?
Just to keep it clear, man, Chisora only lost one fight leading into this one, man. He had beat David Price and Spilka and Gashi prior to that loss against Alexander Usyk. So now he's gonna be facing Joseph Parker. I don't think he did that bad in that Usyk fight, to be honest with you, man. So Parker, I think, is in it just to collect a check. Honestly, man, I think they both are though. That's what makes it crazy. I don't see either one of them like, you know, in it for the legacy. They're just in it for some checks, man. I'm actually gonna favor Chisora for some strange reason in this fight. I don't know. Something tells me that Parker's gonna go in there and just get caught. I don't like Parker, but I don't like neither one of them, to be honest with you. I can't. Some fighters I just can't watch, bro. Like, I'll watch it, but it's hard for me to watch them fight. You know, like when he was fighting Usyk, man, my God, he was so slow. And this is why I don't think Usyk is that great either, man, because he was hitting Usyk too. And I'm like, man, you letting this slow, fatso hit you, bro, with them slow punches that Stevie Wonder could see with Ray Charles yelling at you from the other side, telling you it's coming. Man, listen, bro. Come on, man. I don't know, disgusting, man. I watch it because it's boxing, but then again, is it boxing? I don't know. You know, like, I don't like either one of them. I don't even look forward to the fight, to be honest. I hate to say it, but I don't even look forward to the fight. I'll watch it though, just because it's a boxing bout.
And you watch it because something funny is bound to happen. When you talk about Chisora and a guy like Parker, man, something weird is going to take place in that fight. I just know it. And with Parker, I'll say this till he's not around no more. How in the world can you be a guy named Parker, get bit by a spider, and don't become Spider-Man? Get out of here. Go sit your butt down somewhere. It's like he can't
you gonna make me
got bit by a spider, man. And I know those spiders over there in that part of the world are huge and dangerous and stuff like that, which is why I ain't going over there. I don't like spiders like that. But
nah, bro.
Yeah, man.
You made me mute my mic, bro. God, bro.
But this is just one of those situations where something funny is going to happen in that fight, man. And you could just kind of see it because Joseph Parker is like, you know what? He's getting his comeuppance for avoiding Wilder, man, because he had a chance to fight Wilder when he had that WBO strap. And they thought they were going to take a better deal or easier touch or whatever when they went over there and give that belt to AJ. But he didn't realize that Ed Hearn had the refs in the bank and everything where he wasn't going to be able to fight on the inside and all of that. Hey, if he would have fought Wilder head up, it would have been a head up fight. It would just been the two of them, see who the best, see who going to be unified out of that. But no, he went over there. And now he's been in the graces. He done been knocked out by Dillian White and everything. It's like, come on, man. Really?
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't have no love for the dude, you know, and he ain't Spider-Man. So get out of here.
I just want to touch up on something way off the topic, man. But Estrada getting the franchise belt. Look, I've heard several people. I've heard several people say, I don't know why they gave it to him. I don't know. He requested it. You know, they're trying to act like they just gave it to him. He requested it. It is public knowledge. It's public. You can Google it. You can find the articles. He personally requested that belt. That wasn't nothing given to him. Let's get that out the way before the rumors start. He asked for that shit, Stormy, and they granted it to him. Now the difference is that I think he really wanted to do that for one, to avoid the mandatory. We all know the obvious, but at the same time, he wants to go ahead and run it back with Chocolatito because he himself said, man, you know, that was a close fight, you know. So he wants to, you know, do the right thing and give Chocolatito that rematch, man, so they can actually, you know, do one final fight against each other. Now, I'm going to be really paying close attention to what Estrada does after that fight, because if he's so successful to beat Chocolatito, is he then going to turn around and fight the guy that was supposedly his mandatory? Is he going to give him a shot, or is he going to do like the rest of these chickens that got the franchise and run away from the smoke? Inquiring minds want to know.
Well, it depends on how the third fight will go with Chocolatito, if that's what's going to be on the horizon, because Chocolatito could not miss with that right hand, man. And when a fighter can't get out of the way of a right hand, bad things are on the horizon for them. Bad things. And you know what's funny? When you watch a fighter and he looks very formidable, and sometimes, you know, he might have taken a loss, but it wasn't a bad loss or whatever. It's just, you know, somebody outpointed, got a decision, whatever. But when a guy like Chocolatito, who is an elder statesman at that weight class at 33, because I've said it, 33 is like 40 at that weight class, because of the weight that the guys have to cut, what they put their bodies through and everything at that lower weight class. But when you're getting hit with those right hands like that, people sit back and they watch, right? And you gotta be certain that Sorung Visai has been back there watching that fight and saying, like, wow, if you count the number of right hands that Chocolatito hit that guy with, and Sorung Visai is thinking about himself being a much bigger, stronger puncher, you know, he's probably chomping at the bit to get back in there with Estrada again, because he knows what he can do. And they already split, but at the same time, it's a great fight. And Estrada needs to show that he can improve, because from me, my perspective, he did not win that fight. And that was the type of fight that was a legacy fight for a fighter like Chocolatito, because in his aging years, he comes back and he puts on a performance like that. And they always talk about aging fighters always being able to have one fight left in them where they can turn back that clock a little bit. And I think that was it for Chocolatito, and I think he deserved the victory, because if he has his third fight with the guy and he gets stopped because he's aging and he's faded, that's not fair, because he won that fight. He won it. He won it on his effort and merit, not on the fucking judges' scorecards.
Right.
What they thought, because that one judge that had it like him winning every round, that was ridiculous. What fight was that man watching? He was sitting there with his eyes closed, as far as I'm concerned, just scoring for Estrada. And even for Estrada to come out and say, hey, it was a close fight, a fighter ain't going to say, yeah, he beat me, but that's the closest that you're going to hear coming out of a fighter's mouth.
Check it out, man. Share that screen right there that I put on there, man, just so they know that this is in fact what it is. And as you see what I highlighted there, it says the lineal and previously unified WBC WBA champion for Hermosillo, Mexico, requested the designation, which was unanimously approved by the WBC Board of Governors.
Yes, sir.
Estrada requested it. This is not me digging information out my ass. This is what's coming out. It's on Boxing Scene. You can look the article up yourself. And this is why I say people got to do their homework, man, and stop listening to folks that don't do their homework and just put opinionated junk out. When I speak because I know the stuff to be factual. You know, what he does with this franchise, I don't know. We're not going to know. But if the trend continues, it's probably going to be like the other two. Tuck and run. You know what I'm saying? You know, I don't know. I'm hoping he don't and he fights the best at 115, but we got to wait and see, Stormy. So that's why I wanted you to share it, because I didn't want him to think that I'm he's capping. He's saying that Estrada did. He did. I'm saying it because he did.
Right. Well, I mean, it's right there. It's in print. It's right there in print, man.
I don't know, man. You know what's funny, man? I actually get aggravated sometimes, Stormy, because a lot of the stuff you can show them and show them and show them. You can show them and they'll put their blinders on. What is it? They close their eyes. They see, but they don't want to see.
Right. Well, hey, man, you know what? and I listened to L Dub earlier talk about that as well. And he kind of expressed what you hinted at, the fact that he may want to get that third fight with Chocolatito in. And then, you know, that would enable that instead of having to face the mandatory straight away. But there's still, you know, Rungvisai out there, man, who's been the nemesis of both of those guys.
He's
You
getting the
know, and
shit end of it.
yeah, and but he's, you know, it's like making them that this era's real Fabulous Five or whatever. So that's okay, and I like that, you know, that these guys have faced each other at least a couple times each, and may get a trilogy out of at least 2 or 3 of those fights. So that's great. That's
Well, I
great. I
got to
like
get
that.
running, Stormy. I know where we're. I got to get running, man. But
Yeah.
by the way, the last thing I want to say is, listen, I don't want to see Povetkin and White again, but Eddie Hearn's gonna make that trilogy, man. I shamefully, they're gonna make that trilogy, man. I do want to
That's a
say
safe bet.
shout out to Mike 202, the Jab Jamboree. Shoot, I know I'm missing some people that I know in here. Mad Chad's in there, Mad Chad's everywhere, man. Bruce Goes, J.A. Dixon, Picasso, Phil J508, man. 88 Sports Talk, Terry Smoot Jr., man. You know, I'm just trying to shout out the people, man. You know, they're good people, man, and they're always floating around, showing everybody, you know, all of us love, you know, I ain't gonna say everybody, just, you know, yeah, just the real recognized real. That's all, man. But look, Stormy, I appreciate you as always. You know, it's always a pleasure to chop it up. 2 triple OGs on the panel together. You know, it's what we do, man.
That's right. That's right. And salute to you, Kano, and I'm glad you was on here with me, man. And we'll be looking forward to working together again soon.
Word. Well, I appreciate you. Salute to everybody.
All right. Peace, man.
Peace.
So it is I, Stormy B Man, here by myself at the moment. It's another afternoon of boxing raps. Salute to my man, I am Ill Will out there in that super chat. He says, salute OG Stormy B Main and Kano. Thank you for that donation, bro. Appreciate you out there. Listen, man. The boxing raps, which is what this show is titled, you know, it's like just talking boxing. It's like no specific subject or whatever. We just cover whatever that's in the sport, and we get a chance to chop it up from time to time. Various personalities come on here with me, and you know, we do our thing. Got started a little late today because Stormy had some things that he was doing, but I tell you guys, man, I'm gonna put if is Ack Reacher still out there? Ack Reacher, if you're still out there, write something in the chat. Ack Reacher. And Ill Will, you out there. Ill Will, I'm gonna send you a link, bro. Let's see here. Yeah, sorry about that. I was trying to put myself in there. Ill Will and Act Reach, I sent you two brothers links, man. You guys can come and join me for this last. I think I'll go for another 30 minutes on here. If you want, you can join me on here and we can finish chopping up on the sport of boxing, man. Give you guys a chance to get on here with me and, you know, chew the fat a little bit. That's if you guys want. There's no pressure or nothing like that. But I thought I'd invite you on for that opportunity. So check your emails. Ack, I sent yours to the Ack Reacher email that you got. But yeah, man, this sport, one thing we will have to take into consideration is how COVID affects these fighters who have come in contact with it. Even if they're strong and healthy and things like that, there may be some adverse effects that the virus has on people. And as I was listening to someone in the chat, they wrote that, who was that? Ringside with LCD says the doctors say that these issues last longer than 6+ months and are studying the after effects to get a better idea of chronic issues. Yeah. To me, what it comes across like something that attacks your immune system. And maybe after going through it, you're not as strong as you were before you encountered it. And if the immune system is going to be supplemented or develop stronger, it appears to me that that's going to come in time. It's not going to come right away. So I totally believe that someone that comes in encounter with COVID, it's not just going to be a walk in the park. You go back out and, oh, you're over it like you got over the flu and you go back and you're doing your thing. That may be what people saw in Povetkin last night. Even though someone was saying, oh, it looked like he was drugged or whatever. It's like maybe he's not, 100% recovered, because if it was just a couple of months ago that he had the virus, it's only a couple. You still have to do your training and everything. Your body hasn't come back 100% yet. And as Ringside with LCD said, the doctors are saying it's going to take at least 6 months for a person to recover through that process to get back to some sense of normalcy as how your body functions and things like that. And then even after that, you might need another 6 months for your body to recover. And then you start training and stuff, because when you go into training, you're depleting your body in doing that naturally without COVID or whatever, because you're breaking your body down to make it strong. And if your body's weak to begin with, the breakdown is worse. So let me welcome my brother Ack Reacher out there to Jab Jamboree. What's going on, Ack? How you doing? Come off of mute.
Yeah. Sometimes it react a little slow.
Yeah.
Salute, Stormy, man. Appreciate you, man. Nothing, man. Just look out for Night Court, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fridays. And other than that, you can catch me doing live streams on the weekends. That's it. What's going on with yourself, brother?
Man, just had another Sunday afternoon stream. I always call, well, not always, but I recently started calling my streams that I do on the weekend like this. I call it boxing raps, like your rap session, just having a talk on boxing. Nothing in particular, but anything can be included as far as boxing is concerned. So kind of Loco and I, we just kind of got into what we were experiencing yesterday with the cards on DAZN, the heavyweights in particular. And then we just kind of ran with a conversation about the heavyweights pretty much, because, it's been said, as so go the heavyweights in boxing, so goes the sport of boxing. So it's like, it's nice to see these guys mixing it up, but we're not always getting what we want to see. But at the same time, the heavyweights need to do their thing. You know what I mean? So that's what the conversation was. But I'll throw the hat in your area and ask you: is there something in particular you want to chat it up about?
May not. Is there anything really? Not really. Not really. Not that I could think of right now or off the top. Anything that's. Oh well, you know what? You guys did bring up the Chocolatito and the Estrada fight, and I thought that was a good talking point that you and Cano Loco presented. My whole thing with the situation is this. I thought, if anything, it was a draw, honestly. I thought Chocolatito did kind of start a little late. He was landing, and he did keep landing the right hand. But he also was taking some shots back. And he was also getting caught. So it was kind of vice versa. It was dead even to me. Again, I'm not mad, though, if anybody had it either way. I just felt, though, me personally, it was a draw. I didn't think it was a robbery.
Well, the fight was not a robbery. That one judge's scorecard was the robbery.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That guy, he scored that fight as if Chocolatito didn't win a round. And see, that's where the talking point that I did when I did my post-fight show on that has to stop. We got to get guys like that out of the sport of boxing, whether they just revoke their judges' privileges and don't let them back in as judges whatsoever, because you can tell that's a man on a take. That's a compromised person. Where you in a fight like that, of that magnitude, that you don't give one round to Chocolatito. And I'm not saying that, it's not even campaigning for Chocolatito. It's like being fair in the sport where, like I said, when men get themselves in condition to fight their best at the top of the sport like that, and then to have someone come and take your whole effort and merit away from you by making it like you weren't even present. That could have been mailed in. That could have been, the judge didn't have to be sitting in the arena. He could have been in the back room with a Diet Coke and a box of donuts, and he could have given that score. And that's ridiculous. When you have men and you've boxed yourself, you've gone in the gym and gotten in shape and trained and everything, only to come out and have somebody not even make you like you were.
Storm, don't count me out. Yeah, we got a tournament coming up on the 17th. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. It's like, and for a judge like that, I mean, you want to strangle those guys. What are they looking at? Even if he give the guy a 2-point victory over Chocolatito, that's more reasonable than what he did. He made it as if Chocolatito wasn't even in the fight. No, you're lying. Do you know, Ak, that fight had no clinches?
I could believe it. Usually those weight classes, when you get lower, it is less clinching. Depending on the fighters, it's less clinching. Yes, but it's more punches thrown.
In this fight, there were no clinches. And these men fought 12 rounds, and they didn't fight for 3 minutes of each of the 12 rounds, but they fought enough to break punch stat records and stuff like that. They were really going at it. And for someone to engage in a fight like that, how can you have them not win in one round?
And I agree with you on that aspect. I want to take over your talking point just a second, if you allow me. I definitely agree with you because I know what it takes. You know what I mean? Like, I just left the gym literally, the grind never stops when it comes to boxing. And to be honest with you, not just from a physical aspect, from a psychological aspect, it's kind of overbearing, depending on also what you have going on in your personal life. And you have to be able to separate that. You're forced to be able to separate that, even though you want to, whether it's girl problems, whether it's financial money problems and bills or whatever it is, you have to be able to deal with that. So I completely understand what you were saying as far as like, you know, him getting in there, him training, and for a judge to completely take it away from him like that. We're not saying we're not mad that the judge swayed it his way if you felt that way, but to not give him any rounds, you know, I'm glad that you cleared that part up, you know, because I did think it was more of a drawish, but it did seem like he was on the take, or either sometimes you could just be looking at, and it's just like sparring with a coach. You could just be looking at so much as what one fighter is doing over another. Because that's like if you was my coach and you was working my corner, even if you wasn't my coach, let's just say I was going to Chicago to visit and I wanted to.
Hey, Yak, we lost your audio real quick. Ak, we lost your audio, bro. Can you hear me, Ak? Okay.
Sorry about that. Got a phone call from my aunt. She needed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know when that happens on the StreamYard, it knocks people off. Yeah.
Yeah, my aunt. Yeah, she said, I'm sorry. I didn't know you on TV. I said, no, I'm not on TV, auntie. Not yet. But anyway, like I said, you could be from the outside looking in, and you could just be paying attention basically to what I'm doing because you know you my guy or whatever, and you there for me. You know what I mean, just to water and things like that, and also you just the overall boxing fanatic like myself. I know you just like to be around the whole atmosphere, so. Not only that, you'll be taking in that also. So I know you could just be looking at one person sometimes. I'm guilty of doing that too, even with both of my friends. There'll be like one friend that's sparring, and because me and him is a little bit tight out, it may seem like I'm yelling out things to him a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that that's an excuse for that judge to do that. I'm just saying sometimes I feel like as a judge, you shouldn't do that. You should be able to have an eye to be able to see both fighters. But I know that happens sometimes. And then also what a particular judge ultimately likes gets in the way too. But I felt like they was fighting the same type of style. So I understand. And this is my last point. I'm going to let you say whatever. I can understand why you're saying that because they were fighting a similar type of style. So it's not like one person was doing something so unique and it just upset the person so much. They were fighting a similar type of style up to a point to where you and a lot of other people feel like, how could this judge rule it that way? And
let me ask you this. Do you think that more former professional champions or top contending fighters from a bygone era, I'm not talking about present day era, but from a bygone era, meaning like a fighter whose career is retired and they don't necessarily have an invested interest. Is like, do you think that men like that and women should be selected as judges?
I'm all for that. I'm also all for even dudes that may have retired, even maybe in like the early 2000s and things like that. I'm also for the dudes like that. I do agree. Yeah, I do agree it should be up to a certain point. Like you shouldn't be able to be a part of it and you just retired maybe 2 or 3 years ago. You know what I mean? But
yeah, and we're not saying that it's got to be an 80-year-old former fighter being a judge.
Yeah.
But like someone like in Ray Leonard's class of fighting, you know, or the Julio Cesar Chavez, you know, Julio Cesar Chavez in his class of fighting, you know, and guys like that, because. And not the guys who are promoters like the Bernard Hopkins and Oscar De La Hoya's, not those guys, because they are invested in the sport. But I'm just saying that men of those eras like that, a Larry Holmes, you know, or a George Foreman or someone like that, those guys who had a career and they know because they've taken the blows. You know what I'm saying? And they've been
I think George Foreman would be great. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and they've been on the other side of bad decisions. You know what I'm saying? So those men, they can relate to what the sport needs. So like, I remember that George Foreman would sit ringside when he was doing HBO commentary, and he was continuously correcting Larry Merchant and Jim Lampley for saying certain things about the fighters, and it was like, you know, don't say that, Larry.
That's what made me love him, Storm. Yeah. That's what made me love him. That's even though I didn't agree with everything George even said. Not to cut you off, but I just had to make that talking point before I forget it. Like, I that's what made me always kind of be on George Foreman's side, because me fighting and stuff like that, like I really I understood what he was saying. Like there was a particular situation, you know, I'm gonna let you finish that I want to talk about when you're done, where he corrected it.
Yeah, no, I was simply bringing him up because I referenced him because on air, where that's something that Sugar Ray Leonard would not do, but when he worked with those guys on the air, and George Foreman did. Matter of fact, I heard somewhere on a source behind the scenes, I don't know how true this is that's one of the reasons why George was let go off of HBO, because he was challenging Larry and Jim too much. I don't know if that's true or not, but it wouldn't surprise me, because George, when it came down to certain decisions that they would decide to say something on the air, and he correcting them or advising that they don't speak in that manner because they've never taken a punch. You know, he was well within his right to say that. So would you. So would I. So would, you know, if we, okay, you know that guy that got the baking show, he be throwing people out of his kitchen and stuff. I forget the chef's name, but you know what I'm talking about, right? The chef, he's always, get out of my kitchen, you know.
I forgot his name. I can't think. I
know, you know who I'm talking about, right? Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Now, how would it look for somebody who ain't never worked a damn day in their life in the kitchen, Reg, or
that's like me. That's like me. That's me. That's like me.
You know, I'm sorry, I called you Reggie because I'm so used to being on the show with Reggie.
You know, that's cool. It's cool. Salute to Reggie Owens, sub.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying, that when somebody ain't never did it, right? But they there to be a judge of it. So it's like, how does that work? You have absolutely nothing to draw from. You just going on an eye test when you don't even know what you're looking at. So my suggestion, Gordon Ramsay, thanks Bruce Goes and Junior Syriac. I just believe that bringing professionals who have had, even it could be trainers, be judges. Don't just allow these nincompoops to sit out there with pen and paper where they could be bought. Don't forget that aspect of it, Act. They can be bought by promoters, you know what I mean? Put them up in a hotel for the night, you know, gave them the key to the buffet and all of that stuff, right? Where these others who would be professionals, they don't need any of that from you. They done made their money. They done been in the thick of things, and they're just there to provide fairness and fair play for boxing. That's what I'm saying, and I think that would serve very well. you know, to have professionals like that to come out and do that. But go ahead and say, you said there was more that you wanted to say.
Yeah, speaking on the talking point that you made as far as them having to correct Larry Merchant and Jim Lampley and things like that. There was one particular fight that I was watching, and I believe it was a Prince Hassim Hamed fight. I don't remember exactly who he was fighting, and you guys out there, if you all, you may know out there. And basically, Prince Nassim is dealing with a little adversity in this particular fight. And around this time, Prince Nassim Hamed had got most of the guys out of there. His 25 knockouts were, I think they were under 3 rounds, maybe 4 rounds or whatever. And Larry Merchant, because George Foreman commented it and said, "Oh, now it's kind of showing because he knocked all of those guys out early." He said something of that nature. I'm paraphrasing, y'all. And Larry Merchant said, "George, you're talking about a guy that got 25 knockouts. You know what I mean? Not even past the 8th, 10th round." And then George came back maybe like 2 seconds later and said, "I had 30." and I was crying. I was like, "That's a fact, George. Talk to him, George. Talk to him. He blowing real hot air right now. He talking like one of them dudes that always watch those type of kids in the recess yard that fight. Y'all grew up with them kids that I'm talking about, girls and guys. You know what I mean? That was always fighting. You know what I mean? Y'all was always, oh, this person fought. Oh, yo, you seen the fight yesterday? Nah, I was absent. Oh, yeah, we had a lot of those in my school. So
yeah, absolutely. And salute to Jay Dixon out there. He wrote in the chat, he says, Foreman got on Lampley for making that joke about Allah. Yeah, absolutely. See, when you have someone who really has an attachment to discretion, that's what George was. He was the conscience of Larry Merchant and Jim Lampley when he was on there. Now, did he always get it right? No, he didn't. But he had a moral fiber where he would on the air address these guys. And he wasn't like condescending toward them or putting them down or even insulting. He was really riding the ship when he would say certain things like that Allah reference that J.A. Dixon mentioned, when Jim Lampley got so full of himself and went on to say something like that. And George was like, hey, let's not do that. You know, don't say that. Again, George was great for the time he was there, but it is the type of people like Lampley and Merchant that need to be displaced from professional sports overall and start bringing some of the real people who participated. I don't care if you're talking about race car driving, okay? Because you get some guys who really drove those cars and were in the smack ups and were in there winning trophies and stuff like that. Let them talk about the car races. All of these old dudes that sit back and they just talk. Yeah, we are here at the Indianapolis 500 and I'm Jim Bob and I'm going to tell you about the car races today. Get your butt out of there. You can barely drive your Honda Civic, bro. Get out of there. We want somebody who really know about the sport. They can talk about it, what it's like, what the adrenaline rush is when you're dealing with XYZ. That's what we want to hear. And in boxing, that's what we want the same. We want that judging the fights and we want that commentating on the fights. We don't need these guys, these Yale and Harvard grads sitting there with a microphone in their face and they can't relate. Go sit your butt down somewhere in front of Harvard or Yale and talk about that, because that's what you know. Get the hell away from my sport because you're ruining it. What you got, Ack?
Agree with you 100%. I think it should be one analyst and two boxers per commentary team. 2, 3, or whatever. It should be mainly set guy or girls. I'm not against it. It could be new age boxers. It could be old age boxers. You can mix it up. I don't give a damn how you give it to me. But just let most of the analytic table, let it be mostly made up of boxers that still got their mind. I know a couple of the old school dudes, you know, they might be a little punchy, so I'm not mad that, you know, but I'm just saying, like, you get a couple of those dudes that still got their mind together, like a Vinny Pazienza. You know what I mean? Somebody, I'm not even mad if you get somebody like a Vinny Pazienza. You know what I mean? He been there. I'm not even mad at Ray Boom Boom Mancini. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I'm not even mad at newer dudes like Sergio Mora. Sergio Mora be keeping it real, yo. I'm not even gonna lie. I like Sergio Mora. He come from a fighter standpoint. If you really pay attention, and he be keeping it real. Because I never forget when he said that he felt as though Deontay Wilder was the #1 heavyweight. And I thought to myself, the only reason he could even think something like that, this is before the second Fury fight, is because he been in there. Only a commentator like that been in there could keep it a stack, as we say in New York. Keep it a stack like that.
Yeah, and you have to respect people like that have, you know, that type of interest, you know, and understanding and depth. So, you know, but that's why I talk about it like I do and say that we need the professionals at that end of the sport. That will help hold and keep the discipline, the line of discipline for this corruption too. Because when you got somebody breathing down your neck, like, hey, are you scoring that for the right person? You know, then, you know, people will be more, you know, more likely to do the proper thing than to do the angled thing. So, you know, Jay Dixon says, exactly, OG, there's a different understanding of what goes on in the ring that onlookers just can't speak on. Yeah, I know. And, you know, that's one of those things. We talk about that all the time. You know, when you have professionals.
Storm, you know what I want? I want them to legalize in every state that hosts boxing. I want them to replays, man. Because sometimes, like, some people don't even be getting knocked down. Dudes be getting tripped. People be stepping on their feet. I think, you know, sometimes a lot of the fights, too, you know, I know it could be something just as little as that. But sometimes stuff like that, I think it should be replays. You should be at least granted one replay in the fight, in a championship fight. I mean, in a regular 10-round fight or better, at least. In a 10-round or better fight, it should be replays granted in every single state. Illinois, New York, Georgia, Pennsylvania. We should just get it started right now. I think that's completely fair. Because there's a lot of matches that I watch sometimes and I'll be like, what's that? I don't really think that was a knockdown.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. What you got? One of them Amber Alerts? Shout out to Felix Nunez. He says, I like the setup the PBC got with Goosen and Lennox. Only problem is Brian Kenny. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Can't stand him.
Man, that dude right there. But see, he's from the Larry Merchant School of Broadcasting, though. That's the old guard. We got to do away with that, man. Get that the hell up out of here. Put him on a Scud missile and send him. Because that's you don't need that in boxing anymore. Maybe there was a time when you needed that because there was no interest in the sport. There is tremendous interest in the sport of boxing today, Reacher. All you got to do is look at every time they have a free match on TV, you know, when it's on regular TV. Look at the ratings that boxing gets when it's on regular TV where people ain't got to pay for something. Man,
Stormy, I'm going to take it a step further. Shoot, you even could throw it on social media and have a watch party. There'd be a couple thousand people in there. I did that. I forgot what fight I did that. It was a Wilder fight. I don't remember what one it was. I had so many people in there. I was like, "Dag, man, I'm about to cut this off."
Absolutely. And when you have that type of a viewing audience, you don't need a person who is very condescending and thinks he's above all and all of that presiding over speaking on this. You just need a person who can be able to deliver the facts of what's being seen and let those professionals that sit around them, like the Lennox Lewis or Joe Goosen, talk about it. You know what I mean? He's like the man, the referee with the whistle that throw the ball up for the jump ball, and then those two guys go to doing their thing, right? It's like you don't need him to sit up there and give his thoughts about what he thinks and what he feels, because don't nobody give a damn. Don't nobody give a damn. You understand? They'd rather see him with a big piece of masking tape across his mouth and tied up in the back of the blue room back there than to see him saying what he be saying. I can't stand that guy or any of them like him because they're very disrespectful first and foremost. It seems like they can't get nothing else out of their mouth before being disrespectful. And the day that a fighter punches one of those guys right in their mouth and knocks some teeth out is the day that I'll put something on his bail money. Because I'm telling you, it need to happen. It need to happen like yesterday.
I remember Bernard Hopkins had the son Larry Merchant one time like that in one of his fights. I forgot who he fought. It was one of his mandatories. I know you remember that one. I know you remember that one.
Go to my community page. I got that up on my community page.
Oh, okay. I
put that up on my community page because it was such good stuff. And when I ran across it, because I got it on VHS when I was recording boxing a lot, but somebody had posted that up. And I was like, oh, let me take this and put it on my community page. And I put it on my community page on YouTube. It's right there. Because he did Larry just like Larry needed to be done. Perfect. There ain't enough of that.
Only other person I've seen do Larry worse than that is Floyd. It's like, you never give me credit for nothing. HBO need to fire you. If I was 30 years younger, I'd kick your ass. He said, you wouldn't do nothing.
You know, that could you see the hate coming out of Larry Merchant right then and there? Did you see hate?
You ain't lying, because I really feel like if they granted him it, if he could transform into a younger body, he would have did it to fight Floyd that night. He would have did it.
The hate that came out of that old racist bastard's mouth. The hate. Who wanna sit up there and tell a professional fighter, if I was 30 years younger, I'd kick you? Man, seriously. Do you think that Larry Merchant would have said that to Muhammad Ali?
Nope.
And why?
The time period and also the caliber, not to, diminish, this era is it was a different time. And Ali
I'll go you one better. I'll tell you.
Ali was larger than life.
No, I'll tell you why he wouldn't do that to Ali. Because of the type of man Ali was. Even though he feel that, he still feel it because Ali is a black man. And that's how he feel about black men. But let me tell you why he wouldn't say it to Ali. Because Ali will say, you know what? I ain't prone to hitting an old man. Okay? But I will. That's how Ali would have responded to him. And that's how he would deserve to be dealt with. Remember, I just stated a little while ago, it's one of the reasons that they took George off of HBO. Because they were starting to have more and more run-ins. Not just on the air. You have to understand that what we saw on the air That was like, that could not be helped because it's spontaneous on the air. Could you imagine what they had to deal with behind the scenes? George dealing with those guys. Think about that. It takes a special kind of person to be like Tim Bradley on network TV.
And Andre Ward.
And I was going to say, and Andre Ward is a different sort than Bradley, but they're two sides of the same coin, which value is less than a penny. Okay? Because when you think of Ward, he comes across as being sincere in certain aspects of the sport because he's a former representative of the sport. But when you look at Bradley, who is trying his damnedest to be pleasing to the degree of being disrespectful to your own, you know what I'm saying? It's like, who's going to respect you? That's why they shouldn't be there. But the big wigs at Disney and ESPN, they don't mind because that stuff is controversial. But you have to understand that it could be controversial, and sometimes people like controversy, but it's really bad when people won't tune in at all. People want to be a part of something. They don't want to be a part of something like that. And Andre Ward should be ashamed of himself. You know? He really should. But
I remember when we defended him, man. Because
I know.
of the first Sergey Kovalev fight.
Yeah, and then he comes back saying things like, I didn't ask you guys to be in my corner. What? Man. That's why I don't give a damn about him now. I hardly talk about the guy. And I don't care. He could watch this. I don't give a damn. Because it's like, dude, you got one time. Okay, you got one time to show your ass, and you've shown it. And guess what? It stinks. And I ain't got to tune into it. To hell with Andre Ward. But anyway, I digress. So, Act, man, why don't you go ahead and let people know where they can find you? And if you got something, you said you got Night Court coming up, right?
Yeah. Next, this Friday coming up, it's going to be a special edition. It's going to be basketball Night Court. Abel Mahari is trying to prosecute Vince Carter, y'all. Trying to prosecute. I should just bang the gavel and find Abel guilty for even thinking. Like, Vince Carter is a cultural icon. You don't just prosecute Vince Carter. But anyway, y'all check us out.
Yes,
y'all
sir.
check us out.
And you can put your link in the chat for your channel there too, Act. You get a chance, put your link in the chat. And go ahead and give us some final thoughts here, man. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to close us out.
Man, I appreciate it, Storm. I know it was kind of spur of the moment. I was just getting back to the house. Salute to everybody in the chat. Salute to the LDBC, man. Man, y'all look out for me Fridays. Subscribe and like the Jab Jamboree. And I got some highlights from last episode if y'all want to check it out. You know what I mean? BFTB and Monty Brown was there prosecuting Terrence Bud Crawford. It was a good one, y'all. It was a good one, man. I can't wait. I can't wait for other brothers to get comfortable enough to prosecute certain dudes and just pop up on the show. And you know what I mean? I think that's going to be dope, man. But other than that, man, shout out to the Mighty LDBC and the Full Berserker Clan. It's your boy, Act Reacher. I never steer you wrong, and I'm out.
All right, man. That's all good. I'm glad you stopped by. When we do these Stormy B-Man raps, man, that's what it's about. It's about having everybody on when they can get on and whatnot. And we just talk about the sport and what our thoughts and feelings are. So it's like, you know, it's not an every week show for me to do this, but I just kind of do it sometime to help put some content out there. But I appreciate you joining me. I want to say salute to Kind of Local Sports, who opened the show up with me, man. And everybody that came out to join us here in the chat this afternoon, the super chat donations, man. I appreciate everybody. Stormy out here trying to do it. Keep it going for you guys. And we out of here till the next time we catch you with another boxing hand wraps, man. This is what we got. The boxing, Stormybman'S boxing wraps. So salute to everybody. Salute to the mighty LDBC. And we out of here. Peace.